Mr. Farber, what do you make of the controversy around the actions of Senator Lynn Beyak?
Well, basically what the senator has engaged in is a form of genocide denial. To deny the pain and the tragedy of what Indigenous people went through at residential schools is outrageous. I have no other words to describe it. And I understand the pain that residential school survivors have to feel, because I, too, come from a family who suffered a genocide. My father was the sole survivor of his small village, the sole Jewish survivor of his small village in Poland during the Holocaust. And I grew up in the shadow of the Holocaust. So I understand that pain. And I understood very much the pain afterwards when people came along and said, oh, by the way, that Holocaust of yours, it never happened. Or if it did, it wasn't as bad as you thought it would be, and it was only good for... I mean, this is just absurd. But it gets even more absurd, Rick, when it's coming from the mouth of a senator of this country. And frankly, I just find that shameful.
Now, there are those who might bristle, even scoff at comparing residential schools to the Holocaust. How do you respond to them?
Well, I'm not comparing at all comparing the incidents themselves. I mean, they were both genocides of their own right, very different. But what I learned in the work that I've done over many years with First Nations and other Indigenous people is that the pain that they felt and the pain that the parents felt whose children were stolen away from them is the same kind of pain that Jews felt during the Holocaust. And so while the numbers were different and while the methods were different, they were both genocides of their own kind. And certainly that's where the similarities are, and that's where the similarities are felt.
So, Mr. Farber, if we can take lessons from dealing with denial of the Holocaust and apply them to residential schools, how might we do that?
Well, the biggest lesson that I can suggest is that you must talk about it. You must confront the people who are doing the denial. They have to be ostracized. They have to be separated from society because, in fact, the vast majority of Canadians, except for bigots and racists and anti-Indigenous types, the vast majority of Canadians now, I believe, accept the fact that we engaged in a genocide against First Nations people. And when you have somebody coming along who is in many ways a representative of the government of the nation of Canada, suggesting otherwise, suggesting that residential schools were all pretty good, I mean, we have to confront her, and we have to consistently remind Canadians that this is not the case, that residential schools was a blight on our history and was, in fact, a genocide that we have to still, to this day, deal with.
Now, there is an analysis out there that the dumpster fire that is Senator Lynn Beyak in this regard, one way to deal with it is to stop giving it oxygen, to stop covering it in the media. What do you think about that?
So when I was with Canadian Jewish Congress, I heard the same argument about Ernst Zundel, who was a renowned Holocaust survivor. I had a very different opinion. I believe that you could not say, let's just walk away. In fact, I would give it oxygen as a means by which to teach lessons. Look, as far as I was concerned, when Ernst Zundel passed away, which he did a number of months ago, and if on his tombstone it read, "Here lies Canada's greatest liar," I could accept that. So the fact is that if you walk away from it, you actually give it legitimacy. You give the denial legitimacy. You must confront it, and you must explain to Canadians over and over again the fallacy of these arguments, in my view.
Mr. Farber, we appreciate your insights.
Thank you very much, Rick.